Did you do a lot of lighting on the floor from shot to shot, or did you tend to light the space knowing what the blocking was going to be?
It was more that, yeah. It was more that.
Yeah.
Hey Siri.
Good afternoon, dude. How can I help?
What does lighting spaces mean? Okay, wants me to look at the web. But I can tell you, because I've written this down, lighting spaces is about making the room itself part of the story, not just lighting people or objects within it. It's the difference between making a space feel alive and natural versus looking well lit. Instead of shining a light directly on a person's face, you're thinking, how would this room be lit if it were real? Kind of like an unworldly, heightened cinematic reality. It's using light to make the space itself feel like it has personality and atmosphere, making it a part of the story. Well, I can do that, right? Good. And now with that bit in the beginning, we have gotten the meaning of lighting the space out of the way. I hope you understood that. I mean, this is at least the meaning for me. It's just making the room itself part of the story. That is what I always think, part of the mood. There's a couple of steps that we need to take before even touching the light so that we can create a good scene, actually. Not just an okay scene, a good scene. First of all, what is the context? Because context will decide on everything.
To light a scene, you've got to obviously understand why it sits in the film. So you've got to understand where it's going and where we've come from and what it means to that part of the movie.
So for this scene in particular, let's say the dude sits at his desk and works on his computer on something. Let's say that is the scene. Awesome. So now that we have done that step 2, we need to focus on one more thing and then we can touch the light. Okay? Cool. We have to understand how light actually works. Generally, and especially in our space, because if we understand how light works, like what happens when the sun is high, what happens to the shadows, what happens to the color temperature, to the sunny parts and the shadowy parts in the sky and the ambient and whatnot, we understand them, it will be so much more easier to recreate that. After recreating that, we can also modify it and, make it a stylized reality. So it all goes through understanding that light first. I have some example photos of this space, of the thing that I'm going to try to create here, and I'm going to show you that. And I've also analyzed it, but we're going to analyze it together. What I see is the classic, slash of warm sunlight. Good. But one very important thing that will make or break your scene is going to be the ambient exposure and ambient color temperature in the space. Even though the sunlight is a spotlight hitting this room through like a slash of light, there's still a lot of ambient exposure and different color temperatures going on. So we have to kind of understand that and keep that in mind when we're trying to recreate the scene. And that is also why I'm going to be doing this scene at a very, very cloudy day, but with some ambient exposure. Because I'm going to be doing this test with 2 lights, because ZHIYUN sent over 2 lights. This is not a sponsored video, but those 2 lights will not be enough to create a room tone and be the key light. So, it's going to need a little bit of help. And in a frame like this, if you have like open windows or like doors or something like that, and if it's not lit correctly, if it's not exposed correctly, that'll be one dead giveaway that, the scene is very artificial. Okay, so the lights we're using is the ZHIYUN CX100, cob light, and the Fiveray M20C. It's kind of like an Aperture MC or like Tamron Ace, but a 20-watt version, pretty powerful. So that thing, yeah, so we're going to be doing that. So this is a room tone. This is the room itself. We're at 1600 ISO right now, and I'm going to turn on the light. Again, the light is where the sun is supposed to come in this picture, so we're gonna try that. This is gonna be the starting point, let's say. This is not how sunlight would actually work. I guess this works, I guess this is okay, but we can do it better. So what I did is I've created this very janky window kind of a thing. I'm just gonna put it in front of it and just gonna try to angle it so that I have this slash here, because in the photo we had until here shadow and then we had this slash there. So I'm just gonna try to do that. I don't know how that will work, but I'm just gonna try to do that. Okay, as far as directionality goes, I think this is good. I'm gonna talk about one more thing here, because normally in you know, when you're doing something like this, you would put it behind the window, and that would really recreate that, you know, the frame and all that. But the thing is, I live in the third floor, so I cannot really do that. I don't have a balcony there, so I cannot really do that. So we're just gonna have to deal with this, because what I'm seeing is I don't get this slash of light because the corner is not strong enough. But we're gonna make this work. Honestly, what I'm just gonna do is I'm just gonna add room tone, and we're gonna take a look at how well it does. As I added the Fiveray M20C or MC, whatever, and I'm bouncing it off of the ceiling, and then it's giving a little bit of room tone, but what I'm seeing is it's not giving enough to here. Maybe I'll have to angle it. Let me just angle it. So I angled it towards me right now, but we gotta be careful with this one, because if I angle it just a little worse, it will create double shadows, and I don't really want to create double shadows. I don't really hate this one. Okay. I'm just gonna la. I'm working. I hope I'm not clipping with my audio. It's not one of my favorites, to be honest. I'm gonna try one more thing. I'll say, okay, so this is acceptable. Let's say this is acceptable, and I'm just gonna try to do it in golden hour tone. So I'm just gonna put the CX100 to 3200, and then the little one to 4500, and then we're just gonna try to make this a golden hour one. I just want to try that. I know this is an acceptable one. This is not the best one, but it's an acceptable one. We're gonna try another frame later on. Light just went out, which means that I have to plug it into a wall, and that means it's only gonna give me about 60 watts of power, 60% of power. So that just sucks, but I'm gonna have to go to like 1600 ISO right now. Okay, but this is the 3200 plus the 4500 little one for the room tone. To be honest with you, I'm not super loving this, but let's say this is an acceptable one, and let's try a couple more perspectives and a couple more frames in this frame, and I'm gonna try to do a complete other frame in the other room. Let's go. Okay, I did a tighter frame, and I just removed the wide angle adapter right now. So let's say this is the frame. There's the golden hour version one. I think it's okay. Now our room tone is at 8000 Kelvin, and our key light is at 5600 Kelvin. So this is a daylight version of the whole thing. Not really a fan of it. I'm just gonna try one more frame, and then we'll move on to the next room, and then I think that's gonna be better. I know that's gonna be better because I did that first. So yeah. Okay, so let's give this one a shot. I'm gonna have to slide down a lot and say blah blah blah. I'm working. I'm not really loving this one, but let's just, okay, so this is the same frame in the golden hour version, but to be honest with you, I'm not really loving these. I think the other frame is going to be a lot better. So this is going to be the second frame. I like this frame. I also have an image of how this is supposed to look with that light. That was golden hour, but this time I'm not going to go golden hour. I'm just going to try we'll go golden hour. We'll try both of them. So yeah, okay, you're seeing my mic, so set design is not really there, but let's just say that's okay. So what you're seeing right now is completely room tone, and I'm going to close those blinds off, and then we're just gonna get a dark image. Okay, so there's just a little bit of a daylight. It's a cloudy day, so just something coming in from the bedroom door, but I don't think that's gonna be a problem. So this is where the color temperature thing is going to come into play again. I'm going to open the CX100 at 100% with the reflector on at 5600 Kelvin, and I'm just going to blast it through here. And I know that it's not going to look good, but I'm just going to give it a shot, okay? So I'm not clipping right now. Okay, so this is good. This is not how the sun would actually come into this place. It would actually cut off around here. That image we saw, and it would cut off actually here. And I think we need a little bit of more reflection and more light coming in around here. I don't actually hate this one. I would actually add the room tone to this one. False color, by the way. So I'm gonna be adding the Fiveray M20C MC. Is it C or is it MC? I'm not sure. And I'm gonna put it to 8000 Kelvin. And what we're gonna be doing, so we gotta be careful, because if the light comes in from that place, the shadows will look, you know, different. So we don't really want that. This is bouncing off from the ceiling. This is off. This is with bouncing off from the ceiling. So this is again it bouncing off from the ceiling and then coming down to me. I'm gonna try bouncing it off from the wall over there, and then, you know, but I think that's gonna create a bit of shadows like from here, so I don't really like that. Okay, so before I actually perfect that, I want to perfect this sunlight, so I'm just gonna turn that off because the battery lasts only 30 minutes. So I'm just gonna turn that off, and we're just gonna try to get the sunlight correct. Okay, let's take a look at the frame. This actually is not too bad because the sunlight hitting here is actually right where it's supposed to hit. So that's pretty good. From the box that I put there, you can see this kind of like a weird shaped shadow. Okay, let me just fix that. Well, I fixed that shadow, but the shadow in here looks still a bit off. But you know what? We're just gonna say it works for this one because this is a lighting test again. Okay. So again, this is at 8,000 Kelvin with that room tone. This is from the ceiling, bouncing off from the ceiling. I'm just gonna try to do the same thing with bouncing it off from the wall there. So this is bouncing off from that wall and from the ceiling a little bit to me. I don't actually know which one I like more. I think that's gonna come together in the post a little bit. I should have added a LUT in here. That would have been easier. Well, shit. Okay. So I think we're gonna have some exposure problems in the shadows, but okay, not too bad. All right, so I actually don't hate this one, but what I want to try is what would this look in golden hour. So I'm just gonna turn that light. So the camera is at 5600 Kelvin, and that's gonna stay at 5600 Kelvin. I'm gonna turn that key light to 3200 Kelvin, and we're gonna make the room tone about 4500 Kelvin. So yeah, let's give it a shot. Okay. Just for info, this is 3500 Kelvin on the key light and still 8000 on the fill light, the room tone, ambient tone. I'm just gonna turn that into 5600 first, and then we're gonna turn it down to 4500. So this right now is with the ambient tone at 5600 and then 3500 there. I'm gonna turn off the 5600. This is no room tone, just the key light. The problem with this one, we're gonna take a look at it in post too, but I think this looks super fake to my eye, or maybe just because I know that I'm lighting the space. I don't know, maybe it's a philosophical question. I'm not really sure about that, but okay, I'm gonna try to add the room light again. So now this is the room tone at 4500 Kelvin too. I actually pretty much like this one, I think. I'm not sure, I gotta take a look at it in post, but exposure level seems good. Maybe go up to 800, no, I'm clipping. No! Okay, okay, so what is one of the best parts of lighting the space? When you're changing, frames, you might not have to relight stuff because it just works. So I'm just gonna get a couple of different frames here, and I'm just gonna do it in golden hour light, like this one, and then the normal one too, like a normal daylight type of thing too. So I'm playing with my phone and blah blah and whatever. So this is the golden hour one. Let me change this perspective to the daylight. So this is the same frame and the daylight version. Oh, I'm looking at this one. Whoa, coolio. This is something that might not work because of how, the fake light is coming from there. It might actually not work, but I just wanted to give it a shot because you know, now I'm shooting the shadow side, and I might just want to, you know, take a look at the frame, and you know, doing something, looking at something. This might actually work. I mean, I'm clipping a little bit at some points, but I don't think it's too bad. Okay, so this is the golden hour look, which I don't actually hate. I mean, from the monitor it looks okay. This is gonna, again, do I wanna try another frame? I wanna try one last frame. It's gonna be like, you know, eye level maybe. And you know, we might just wanna focus on this, and that might just give us a, you know, cool little frame. And then I wanna focus on me. I think this might look pretty cool. And to think of this in vertigo shot, kind of like, that might be really cool, man. That might be really cool. So what was the scene like this, right? So I'm looking at something like this, blah, blah. And let's put the focus on here first. Oh, what? What is happening in the world? Oh, incredible, what? And what? You're focusing on my eye right now. I don't actually hate this one. I think this one might be pretty cool. Lighting space is cool. It's like you can get so much more out of it, and I think it's a bit more fun sometimes. That doesn't mean that lighting faces aren't necessary. It's necessary in, you know, like different types of shoots. Sometimes you're literally lighting just the face, but this is also a pretty cool one. Greg Fraser was right. Oh yeah, it's getting kind of a distortion in there. All right, so this was a pretty cool experiment. I really enjoyed this one. Other than that, we're gonna do next week lighting faces. So this is the same thing, but we're gonna do lighting faces. So I'll see you in that video. Before I go though, I have to talk about the lights just a little bit. Fiveray M20C, half an hour runtime. It's 20 watt. It is plenty powerful, and it is portable, and it can, you know, it's magnetic, so you can stick up to things. It has Bluetooth control, has barn doors, grids, and then like a diffusion. That gets a thumbs up from me. CX100 on the other hand costs like 210 euros. It doesn't have Bluetooth. It is super portable, but it only runs half an hour, and if you want to plug it into the wall, it doesn't give you the 100 watt power. You can only run it at like 60 watts, 60% power. I mean, from my testing it was 60 watts. At that point it just becomes an overpriced, no Bluetooth, no tilt-headed 60 watt cob light, and I don't really enjoy that, so I think it's overpriced for what it is. If it was like 120, 130, maybe 140, I would have said, okay, this might be a cool one, but for 210 euros, that is a bit overpriced. Yeah, other than that, I think this was it. I'll see you in the next one, in the next lighting faces video. Okay, bye. There's actually one thing that I don't like here. So one thing about these lights, I don't know. Let's just do that.